and with Business Operational Support Services, LLC, aka Boss, with my podcast, Hot Takes. Hot standing for humble, open, and transparent. And I wish I could say I was that creative to come up with that acronym, but I have to give credit where credit is due. And I have to give that credit to Pastor Michael Todd of Transformation Church out in Tulsa, Oklahoma, for that podcast or that name. He says they are a humble, open, and transparent church. And so, me being a former Army officer and soldier, everything is in acronyms. And so I loved it enough to say, you know what, I am going to pay homage. And they say the best flattery is someone repeating and doing something you've done already. And so that's how I pay homage to him, give him full credit for the HOT acronym. And I love it. So today, for those of you who don't know who I am a leadership and organizational change consultant, coach, trainer, speaker. Again, you heard me mention I'm a former Army officer. I served in the United States Army for 12 and a half years before transitioning out back in January 2015. And if you're not familiar with the Hot Takes podcast, we are on Anchor and streaming across Spotify, Apple, podcasting, Google, and a host of others, Breaker, and a bunch of other ones. But today I wanted to stop in quickly and to begin posting these lives about different topics that I come to you with guests. Some will have guests. It won't just be me. As we build up and as we build a following, hopefully we'll be able to have some engaging conversations with audience members. But I like to bring folks on. But the first one I wanted to do on YouTube Live was about my take on what it means to be a friend and what the topic of friendship really means to me. In this time that we're all locked in our homes across the world, we are finding ourselves having this conversation more and more about our introverts versus extroverts, and what it actually really means to be in those different camps. And what, as a trainer and a speaker, one of the things that I always tell people is we're all on the spectrum, whether introvert or extrovert. You on your introvert side, depending on how far up the spectrum you are versus the numbers, you may be the most extroverted introvert in a crowd, and so you actually may end up being the party starter. And on the extrovert side, you may be the most introverted extrovert in a crowd, and when you already have the life of the party present, you just go ahead and you take that back seat and you're just that fly on the wall, and you reserve your energy for other things that are more pressing to you at that time. But friendship in this season, I really believe and there are some things that I believe around relationships and different things like that. I think that there are relationships that come into your life for a reason, a season, and those relationships that are there for a lifetime. And really how you go about scaling or navigating which relationship people fall in is it really around the levels of engagement, and really figuring out why friendship is important to you. And I believe we were never meant to do life alone. And my brother Kinston, who is also a coach, a trainer, and a speaker, he often says, if you're doing life alone, you're doing it all wrong. I'm a huge believer in that. We were never meant to do life alone. Again, are there times where you're going to go in isolation for your meditation, for you to clear your head and different things like that? Yes, I think that is a healthy practice that all of us need to, from time to time, unplug from people, places, and things so that we can center ourselves. But when it comes down to how we get out of this sane and in the right mental state of mind, I believe it's going to take us all becoming community. And as it pertains to friendship, I believe the real importance around it comes from, excuse me, if we are using our friends and our friends are using us, to provide each other frameworks around help. And how is that friend helping you make it through this time? How are you helping others make it through this time? And it's really around not believing you always have to be the strong friend, if that's your role that you play in your current circle. But it's really around how much of that you reciprocate. And so when I say the reason, the season, or lifetime is, again, understanding we have organizational ties and relationships. So you may have a job, you may have professional organizations where, I just know you professionally. I know you as an acquaintance, and I wouldn't put you in the friend category. The same still applies. If you're just that member of that organization that comes up and you take, versus that member who shows up, and you're making sure that you're always in those environments where you are adding value to that organization. But then it transitions to those scenarios and those situations where, like today, are you being an encourager of people? Are you being an encouragement to your family, to your friends? Are you the person that people lean on? And then who are those people that you lean on for support, for encouragement? Because at the end of the day, if we don't fill up our cups, and again, I use the analogy of, again, the glass half empty or the glass half full. If you don't make sure that you fill your cup up, how can you continue to pour? And I always say a empty vessel does no one any good. Same goes for us. If you empty out and you continue to try and pour what's not there, you end up doing more harm than good. And also, an empty person is potentially a emotionally dangerous person, because what ends up happening, and I can recall times where in my drained state, I tried to be there for people. And what ended up happening, the way that I responded, was an aggravation or an agitation, because here I was again giving to others, but I wasn't receiving any nourishment for myself. And what it ended up happening was I lashed out, and it was unfair. It was irresponsible. But then at the end of the day, I wasn't showing myself to be friendly. And again, depending on who's watching or who's observing, that actually may have repercussions that you didn't even know it had. And I always say, decisions have second, third, and fourth order effects. And then until you understand what that actually looks like, we have to be mindful and we have to be careful in how we're navigating in this season. And so I would always say, again, there's help, there's encouragement, and then you have those people. When you're encouraging, it's a form of love and appreciation in the types of words and the type of communication that you're actually using during this time. And I would say that for anybody out there, that you be mindful, again, taking account of the self-awareness and the self-management that has to go into play when, again, you're in these isolating moments where it's being forced on us to be isolated, but ensuring that we're being intentional around what we actually can do to help, what we can actually do to encourage. And then the third part of this is being accountable to what we need to be for people. And that is a huge piece of it, is that, are you adding value to every conversation and every Zoom call, every WebEx, every Skype, every phone call, every Google Hangout, whatever it is? Are you showing up prepared to add value to the conversation, or you're just there to receive? Again, there are going to be those moments. Me and a bunch of speakers, my annual event, Connecting Dots, every Friday in April, we're coming together from 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time to impart wisdom, to have panel discussions around things like suspending judgment and what's next, the power of decisive leadership, manager as coach, and then managing your expectation in a life and career transition. Like, so we're coming together to drop nuggets, to give tangible, realistic things for people to be able to take away, to use them in their world. And so yes, there are those moments, but are you going to be accountable to share what you learn? And I always say, anytime I show up for anything, I don't arbitrarily just go to things or listen to different things. I'm always looking at, okay, how is this going to serve me? And then I'm going in with an expectation that I'm going to learn something new. Never do I go into a situation where I listen to a speaker or read a book and like, here we go. I already know that. I knew what they were going to talk about. No, I'm holding myself accountable to be present and listen, so that again, I may again continue to fill my cup. And my wife laughs at me. I have two types of vacations. I have the professional development vacation, and I have the mindless, I don't want to do anything vacation. Both serve me, but the professional development way vacations that I like to go to conferences and different things like that. But those, I'm a sponge. I'm just a huge sponge. And then it gives me the ability to go back and research things. And so what I would always tell people is make sure that you have an obligation, right? I believe there is an ownership and an accountability that you have to have if you go to any professional development event, that I'm always thinking about, while I'm there, I'm not only getting this for me, but who else am I going to be able to share this with? Because again, that's the coach and the trainer in me, and how can I absorb more content related to these things? So again, just wanted to jump on today to talk through a couple things around friendship, right? Again, a friend is somebody who is going to be there to help you, to encourage you, but then also somebody who can hold you accountable. And I always say in any relationship, the best type of relationship is one that they know they've been given permission to hold you accountable to things you said you were going to do. There's nothing more detrimental to a relationship than you offering advice or different things and you haven't been given permission to. I'll say that again. There's nothing more dangerous than you acting on something because you think it makes sense, but the other person who you're quote unquote intending to encourage or support or hold accountable, they did not release you to, and then furthermore, they didn't release themselves to receive it in a positive way. So if you offer it without that permission being given, don't be upset if they take it wrong. And I always say you have to lead with the question, can I offer my advice? Can I offer this to you? And if, again, and wait for a response. Wait for a yes or no. Because again, if there's no response, assume no, right? And say, hey, when you're ready, I would like to add something to that, or I would like to offer my observation of something. Because again, that's a part of being an accountable partner, but that's also a part of some emotional intelligence on your part. If you're a leader, or if they're a friend, or if you're a coworker of anybody, never press upon somebody your advice, or because again, and leaders be careful with this, because then it becomes a prescription and you now have removed the accountability and ownership from a task being done from an employee or somebody under your direction. When you give them your thoughts on something, and then when it doesn't work out, then you're upset, but they only are doing what you told them to do. So you can't be really mad at them, because instead of making them own the process, because again, the one thing I always used to laugh about when leaders get mad at their employees and different things like that, well, I told them what to do. Well, yeah, they still had an interpretation of what you believe you told them to do. And as leaders, if you don't define things very well, how can you really hold anybody accountable to anything if you're not hearing how they heard you? So friendships, relationships, they have three elements: help, encouragement, and accountability. And so I appreciate the value that my friends bring to my life, because I allow people to come into my personal space. Um, and again, knowing that can be difficult for some people, but we have to get to that place if we're going to get better. This is the perfect time when people can't come into your physical space, but they can come into your digital space to begin to fill out these relationships. Um, and really holding people accountable and friends accountable during this season to check in on you. But here's the one thing I always say. One of the things that people used to push off on me is they didn't know, or they didn't think I needed somebody to check in on me because of my strong demeanor and the different things that I used to project. But no, check on your strong friends. And I love this. Again, I always say this in the several podcasts over the last couple of weeks. I love the meme that says introverts check on your extrovert friends. We're not okay. Well, me, in a lot of the self-awareness work and the self-management work that I've done over the last several years, I'm on the spectrum, and I could do with and I could do without. I think my biggest issue in this season is you restricting me on where I can go. I'm just that person. Like, I just go just to go and walk around somewhere. But all that's been taken away from us. But I know in this season of help, encouragement, and accountability, making sure that we're helping people understand that we have the right intent in our communication, but also not only saying you can trust me, but actually doing the things to help people understand that they can trust us. So this is the real season of action and putting your money where your mouth is. And if people can see your efforts in this social distancing space, imagine how impactful you'll be once we come back together. And so my challenge to you all is begin to take action now so that you build your reputation now, you build consistency now, you build that discipline now, so that when we are able to see each other again, you'll be that much further ahead than people who are just like, you know what, I'll wait till, the social distancing is over before I begin reaching out to people again, because I like seeing people in person. Well, again, just like I'm doing this and you see me on YouTube, or you see me on Facebook or Instagram or Zoom or anything else like that, do it, right? Just do it. So again, Connecting the Dots 2020, it is a free event. Tomorrow we are going live, maybe, but the power of decisive leadership is the topic. Go to Eventbrite, and the event is Connecting the Dots 2020. It's a free event. So again, Hot Takes Podcast. It's on Anchor. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Breaker. It's on Radio Podcast. So yeah, we're out here. If you want to reach me, or you want to look me up for additional content, for additional services, or just to see if I'm really a person out there, you can go to my website. It's www.bossconsultingllc.net. If you want to schedule a consultation, a coaching consultation, or a training consultation, professional development, you can send me a direct email at lawrence@bossconsultingllc.net. So appreciate you all talking about friendship today. Share this podcast, subscribe to the YouTube or wherever you see me at. Share, follow, and if you connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on there as well. and we will change the world one message at a time. So appreciate you all. Continue to stay safe out there, and we will talk to you soon.